On this episode of Road Dirt, we've got a special guest. And here's your hint. Stay tuned. This Road Dirt presentation is brought to you by Law Tigers, motorcycle lawyers. Find them at lawtigers.com. Hey, this is Rob with Road Dirt, and we have a very special guest with us today that I am quite excited to introduce to you. Bryan Carroll is an acclaimed movie screenwriter, producer, and director. Among the many movies that he's worked on, notable movies have been the Die Hard movie, the original one, Predator, the Titanic, just to name a few. He also did a wonderful acclaimed aviation documentary called Living in the Age of Airplanes. And if you haven't seen that, I'm an old Air Force brat, so I dug that big time. But what Bryan is best known and loved for, at least among us motorcyclists, is the award-winning documentary that came out just a few years ago called Why We Ride. And I tell you, everything about that movie just captures and encapsulates what us motorcyclists love about riding. I mean, it just covers everything. It's a celebration of all things motorcycling and what we like here at Road Dirt, what we like to call ride life. So Bryan joins us via Zoom video conferencing. Bryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Rob. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to chat with us here. You and I first became acquainted. We first connected back in January. We published an article on roaddirt.tv called Revisiting Why We Ride. I had bought that as a DVD, and I first was got to be a part of the premiere back in 2013 in Atlanta when it debuted here. Got to go be a part of it, and then bought the DVD and just happened to be looking through it and thumbing through, and decided to watch the whole thing again. And the movie just I really honestly, Bryan, believe it moved me more deeply the second time I saw it than when I saw it at the premiere, because it still just so perfectly captures everything that us riders love about motorcycling. And after we published it, somehow you found us out on the interwebs here and commented on it and opened a dialogue that we've been carrying on ever since. So, man, I'm very grateful for sure.
Well, that's what us motorcycles do. We kind of find each other. You know what I mean? That's what our community does.
Exactly. Well, tell me a little bit about your passion for motorcycling. How did this all start for you? What do motorcycles and motorcycling mean to you? What drives your passion? How did that really all start for you?
It's funny because it wasn't really until I was making Why We Ride that I even chased that or knew what that was, truthfully. I mean, as a kid, it wasn't like that we loved motorcycles. They were just always around. We had a camper, and on the front of it was a Trail 90 that we had. And then I had a Kawasaki Mule, and every one of us had these little Bonanza mini bikes in our backyard. And,
oh, yeah.
And it was like part of life. It was like you went fishing, you went hunting, you had your camper. There was always a motorcycle around. It's just something you kind of did. It was always there. But I think it was funny because when I was making it, I kind of looked back and there's this great picture of me when I'm 2 years old, sitting on my dad's 68 Yamaha DT250 Enduro, which was the very first year that bike came out. And then there's another little piece of film, which is, I think, kind of funny. The very first existence of me on film is on a motorcycle.
Cool.
Where he would take it out. I remember asking my dad about it because I was a little too young. He said, when I was on leave at home, every day when I got home, you would want me to, you'd just sit there and wait for me. And I'd put you on the motorcycle, put my knees, or, you didn't realize it because you'd be holding on the front, but I had my legs squishing your legs almost, trying to hold you on. And we'd go up into the hills and pick wildflowers for your mom and just go out and have fun. So it was just one of those, it was things that I didn't kind of relate until later on. And now I look back at that, I'm like, oh, well, that was probably the spark of it. And I think that was kind of was. But when we first set out to make Why We Ride, we were actually read this great script about Ed Kretz, who's one of my heroes. He won the first Daytona 200. He won the first Lacona. He was the guy who really started this whole stuff. And he had passed on, but I went up to interview his son, Ed Kretz Jr.
Yeah.
And we said, let's do a documentary first. That way we can
kind of ask about that. What was the impetus for Why We Ride? Yeah. So this is the story behind the story right here.
It did. And it's kind of interesting because it's kind of like all points of light come together, including my passion for motorcycles. So
right.
It was like, let's go up there. So I went up there and spent about 3-4 hours of just sitting there with him in this place with all his garage, with all this memorabilia of him, because he was a big AMA racer as well, his dad. And about halfway through the conversation, I kind of realized it wasn't about motorcycles. We were talking about family. We were talking about experiences. And after the interview, I went to James Walker, who was my producer and partner in this, and Chris Hampel, and said, we got to make it. This is not about just a documentary about Kretz. Let's do something different. There's a thing going on here, because I was thinking I grew up riding, but I wasn't riding and I hadn't been riding in a while, and I didn't make a decision not to ride. Life got busy and I had kids, and it just kind of and I sold my KLR years before that, but I'm not sharing I'm not going to have these stories with my kid that Junior's giving me, and I'm like, I want these stories to share with my kids and my family. And we kind of went back and we started turning this whole thing, and I said, dude, let's just be blunt. Let's call it Why We Ride. I mean, everything I do in life starts with why. What will come along and how we'll figure out along the way, which is exactly how this went. It's not about why I ride or why, it's about we as a collective, as one voice talking together. And it's not about the motorcycle. It's not about parts. It's not about text. It's about the ride. Right. And that's why we came up with the Why We Ride and said, let's go for it. And that's what sparked it. And then it sparked me as well. I'm like, well, I want to start writing it out again. And what was it that I missed about it? And that then influenced the movie, because the first thing you realize when you haven't been writing for a while and you start writing again is the sky's a little higher. The world's a little bigger. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we're never going to do a GoPro shot in making this movie. That's for you to go out and figure out on your own. I hate that. That's not news. I want to take the machine, the person, the machine, the rider, and the environment and time together as one. So anytime we're on it, the camera's going to be slightly moving, so we keep those as its own individual concept. Every interview we do, there's going to be no doors, no windows, no way to look outside. You're always going to see a ceiling. That way, when you do go outside in the movie, the sky feels a little bigger. It feels a little higher. So in the interview, we set that up. So there's a lot of things that I went into how to make this movie, because I was trying to get the experience I was getting as learning to ride again into this, and then figuring out what this was. And, down to there's no lower thirds in the movie. I didn't want, a lot of time in documentaries, the lower third will say, here's who this is, and you should pay attention because they're important. I said, no, we're all equal. It's we, not why I ride, why we ride. So that's why you don't find out to the end what their names are, because I wanted it to be all 73 people talking as one voice, which is what we are in this tribe of motorcyclists.
We definitely are. And I believe the movie has begun to really much more deeply ingrain itself in motorcycling culture than even when it first debuted. I'll be honest with you. I believe I believe it's going to be cherished for generations to come, much in the same way as you and I remember the old movie that we grew up on Any Sunday. It's Forerunner film. I believe it just strikes that kind of chord. And as time goes by, it's like a wine. It's just the movie itself is getting sweeter with time. The more people view it and get in on it or view it again. When you think about, when you step back and you look at the project now that it's, you've got a few years past it here, some years since, what do you attribute its success to? Why do you think it almost is still snowballing, really?
It is. It's kind of funny. It's we have this kind of funny bittersweet thing that we're making this movie is. I think its success is the way we made the movie is we always kept true to what our culture was in the motorcycle world. There's one, we didn't put that out in front. We put is like riders are people who come from all walks of life who have a common thing, which is to ride. And the ride is kind of like the great, it kind of like softens everything. It's like, we're not going to talk about politics. We're not going to talk about things. We're going to talk about the ride. We're going to talk, because what it really is, it's about a journey. And that's why we ride, is to always be on that journey, because we don't want to get to the end. That's the end. We want to be on that journey. So even while we're making the movie,
it's not the destination, it's the journey.
exactly. We met Bryan Carroll and we interviewed him first, and then interviewed his family. Then he introduced us to some other people, and then they introduced us to some other people. So the making the movie was just like the very first time you buy a motorcycle. You meet somebody, and you meet their friends who ride, and then you meet their friends who ride. I think that's very natural within there. I think one of the really important things that why it resonates with people, and hopefully will continue, is I always do a list of, whenever I do a project or write a script, I do a list of what it is and what it isn't. And what you'll find is what it isn't is usually hardcore things, like I'll say, like, it's not Sons of Anarchy. That was a great television, but that was about a gang that rode motorcycles. You know what I mean? It was, right, little things. I even had on the list what it is, it was on a Sunday. And it wasn't anything about against on a Sunday. It's just, it didn't have women or children in it. And I wanted to really represent women and children, because I learned dad may want you to ride. If you ride, it's going to be determined by mom. And most likely, it has nothing to do with the motorcycle. It's because mom is looking for another reason for the family to spend time together, right? So as I was doing all this, but when you do look at the list of what it is, it's like fire in your gut, can't sleep at night, your hair stands up on your back. Usually when you're doing something that's right, what the list is of what something is it's emotional and it's feelings. And it was that same thing. And so we had this big wall, and we started laying that all out over 63 feet and started planning out what the emotion would be and what the journey would be. And the images would come to us, and the interviews would come to us as we needed it. And that really was the process of finding that. And I think that carried through to the motorcycle community, because what we really found out, this is kind of the bittersweet for us, is we're a very sharing community. We're the most sharing, one of the most sharing communities there is, yep, right? Which is awesome if you do a motorcycle movie, but the downside of it is nobody buys DVDs, because one person buys it and gives it to 20 of his friends. Because that's what we do. So we made a movie about the most sharing people in the world. And guess what? We're surprised everybody's sharing the movie. So, I hope that it can be shared more. It's up on Amazon, and it's up on iTunes. And because the biggest compliments I've received out of it was, I watched it. I'm probably not going to ride a motorcycle, but we have a boat sitting on the side of our backyard, and I want to do something with the family. Maybe we'll take the boat out again. But most of it comes from moms and women are just like, I've always been a little like timid. Now I've done it, and I'm doing the MSF, and I'm getting my license, and it gets new riders out there. And what it really does, which is awesome, is it gets riders like me who haven't ridden in a while back out there again.
Back on it, yeah.
And that's the best thing, yeah, for sure. So,
well, it's interesting that you included women and children in it, because of the fact that recent studies in the last 10 years shows the largest segment of growth in motorcycling is women. So it was, it was absolutely perfect for that, to include all that in it. And I think really when I interpret the title, Why We Ride, I've heard from so many people that have commented on our story about it, that it, on social media and on the site and things like that, that have made the statement that Bryan said what we so often can't articulate with people that ask, why do you ride those death machines? And you articulated it for so many of us, and very grateful to you for that.
Well, I don't interview people. All those people that we were talking with, I get them to a point where it's a conversation.
Yeah.
And what you'll found is every person from 6-year-old Rocco to the greatest motorcycle, and some of the greatest motorcycle racers out there, like Kenny, right, told the exact same story.
Yep.
They really did. It was about passion. It was about riding. It was about this, they're all telling the same story. And so it was kind of
the joy of sharing it with other riders and families, exactly, and things like that. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what was important. And like I say, that's why we try to do so many things to try to get the story out there. And there's a lot of people who haven't seen it. And it's still, I still see every once in a while I get a couple hundred downloads a month. And I just want to keep sharing it and keep sharing it.
We do too, man. We're with you. The movie and the movement really spawned the Motivational Foundation, did it not? As I understand it. Tell me a little bit about Motivational. What's that all about?
What it is so making the movie was a huge leap of faith. I mean, 2008 hit. It was kind of like people was like, well, that took a lot to, leave your job and go make the movie. I'm like, well, if we had a job, yeah, but it was, guess what? Economy tanked. But again, I don't believe in accidents. I believe there's always a reason for things. And making Why We Ride was a leap of faith. And what came out of it, what we had no idea was the social following. We started just on Facebook, starting a page called Why We Ride, which is just what positive means and nothing negative could go up there. Yeah, and it was just going up and going up. And we got up to like 850,000 followers, and then Instagram. And so it just kind of took off. So when the movie came out, what kind of sparked it was, well, we got to do something with this extra. And why don't we start doing, first idea was we do Why We Ride to the Quell. We'll start doing these charity rides to the Quell, which is this amazing motorcycle show that happens once a year that Gordon McCall puts on. It's kind of like the Pebble Beach Concours Elegance for motorcycles. But I love California because we have canyons and PCH, and it's like being on a MotoGP track all the time out here. So I said, we'll invite people from all over that want to come. We'll raise some money. It'll be a cool event. And it exploded. We have people from 12 states and 4 countries now coming to do this ride. That's fantastic, man. We were like, well, let's do it for charity. And unfortunately, Joe Northrup, our assistant editor on Why We Ride, had been fighting, since he was a kid, had been fighting brain cancer. And a few months after we made Why We Ride, we lost him. So we said, well, that's a sign. This needs to go for kids who are suffering with brain cancer. So that's what we started. And then we originally started working with the PDAC Brain Tumor Foundation. And then as we grew, we're like, we need to do something that we can spread this even more. So we registered and finally became a 501c3 nonprofit, which is called Motivational, a play off of motivational. So motivational. And we're now motivational.org, Motivational Inc. And we do anything that can help riders, that we can use where riders can do good and help them to do these various different things. That's what we started. And our big one coming now is we're going into Sturgis, and we're going to do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, man. You got a big. This is a unique thing that.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, it's never been done in all the years of Sturgis. They've never actually had this thing that you guys. I'm not going to steal the thunder, man. I'm going to let you tell it.
No.
Going on in Sturgis, this rap party, man. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when we first went to film Sturgis, because it was one of the first big things we went to film, I said, let's not go at the beginning, let's go at the end. I want to be there for that end moment, when everybody's like, because that's always the, like, whether you're camping or like our rides, it's like, oh, like a movie. The best part is the rap party at the end. It's great to see you. Hopefully we'll see each other next year at the same time, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't have it. I'm like, they had all these beginning parties and all these middle parties, but I'm like, this is the one event, there's got to be a rap party. So it's been on my mind for 7 years now. And this year we decided, well, you know what? Well, it started last year, but we had COVID, so we weren't able to do it. They said, let's do a small ride to Sturgis. Let's try to put that together. But this is the opportunity. Let's do a Sturgis Rally rap party. And it'll be on the last night, which is it's Friday. And we'll kind of bring a little bit of Hollywood. We'll do a red carpet. And we'll have a step and repeat so people can get the picture taken. And we're going to go completely the other way. Everybody's going to be barbecued out and black t-shirt out. So we're going to do like an island theme, and we'll give away these really cool, we're having these really nice, expensive red Hawaiian shirts made. So everybody gets to wear a Hawaiian shirt. And
I've seen those pictures. Those are cool looking, man.
Yeah, and eat this great island food. And we got a steel drum player. And we'll have, of course, we always do some raffles and stuff. And I'm like, well, what charity should we do? And I found a lot of people in the biker world have been helping out. There's a huge problem, which I didn't understand, which is trafficking kids, women, and stuff like that. And I know some of that was in Sturgis, and I'm a big believer of going right to the lion's den if you want to make a difference. Jesus came.
Atlanta, sadly, has been a big hub of that.
Yeah, I was surprised, and I'm just like, you know what? And I said, we got to do this. If trafficking seems like the right thing, Jesus came to live with the sinners, not to come to live with the saints. That's this makes sense to me. And we met this person again through another contact. There's a person who helped me who now sits on my board, and he sits on her board, is Kelly, and found this thing called Treasured Lives. And we met together and she was telling me what it takes to help people get out of trafficking. And I remember years ago, Laura Clark had this place called the Abbott House. And I was like, not for trafficking, it's for women and to help them. I said, well, we talked and said, a house, that's what we need to build, is we need a place where they can feel safe. Just bringing them out of trafficking and put them in these safe homes stuff goes on there too, you know. So we're going to try to build called the Treasured House, and we're going to raise money. And luckily, Rod Woodworth, who owns the Sturgis Buffalo Chip, he was on my last Why We Ride to the Quell. So he's in full. He's letting us use his place. He's a partner with us on this and a supporter, and we're working with them. And Harley Davidson just came in, and they bought like 50 tickets to the event, and they're gonna run and they're gonna come, which is gonna be really cool. Matt Sweeland and his group, and so yeah, we're gonna try to, fingers crossed. You know, the first year is always not the greatest, but we just hit 100 ticket sales today. We got 150 to go. So
if I think you hit it, man.
Yeah, if
I think you hit it. Yeah,
I think so too. It's something special. It's something that never been done before. And it's just a way for a bunch of people to get, it's on our rides. One of my favorite things is the last night we all just kind of go hang out in the pub, and we're just like, you know, we go out on the beach and have a beach barbecue. And it's like, because it's a homecoming. We're like, we won't see each other for another year, but it's just that, and we're done. So everybody can just kind of relax. Because, you know, for a lot of those guys, vendors and guys like Brian Clock and Paul Yaffer, those guys, they're working the entire time up there, and then they got to load up their truck and get out. So we're hoping this will get them
anticlimactic at the end of a rally, because it just kind of ends, everything shuts down, and people just start filtering home. This is I've never been to a wrap party at any, you know, Daytona or Thunder Beach or any of those.
Yeah.
So I think that's, at the very basic level, that's kind of the genius of it too. Just gathering kind of like the movie Why We Ride. We're about to land a plane here. It's a way of just gathering people together and just let them enjoy each other one last time before everybody says goodbye until next year.
Exactly.
And you're supporting a phenomenal, much needed cause. So
it's a great cause.
You know, yeah, it's perfect.
It is. And it's just like that. One of my favorite parts of Why We Ride is when we had our premiere, we had it at the Academy, which most of the people had never been to the Academy. And I wanted there on purpose. And everybody, we didn't have reporters and stuff there. We had, everybody was in the movie and their families. So we had 850 people there, of their people in the movies, their families, friends. We all got to go to the Academy. We did the step and repeat. We had a great dinner for them, watched the movie, and it was a celebration. And I'm like, I hope everybody does this with their DVDs, whether it be a group of 10 people in their garage or in their backyard or whatever that may be. And that's what I always encourage people to do with the movie is, if anything, it allows us to gather. And boy, if there's one thing we haven't been able to do that I miss most is just gather.
Gosh. That's going to be, that's what's going to make the one at Sturgis so awesome as well, just because of the fact that we're able to actually gather for the first time again.
Yes.
So
no, it's going to be great.
All right, man, on a personal level, I got to ask you this. What's in your garage? Not what's in your wallet, that's your business, man, but what's in your garage these days?
All right, well, I'm a Triumph guy, but I just got rid of my Triumph Cafe. I have my Ace Cafe, which I loved. I just realized I got to get a big boy bike. So but there's two things. I love badge bikes. Again, going back to my dad in that 68 Yamaha, that white tank.
Yeah.
So 68, I have a 68, 69, 70, 71 Yamaha DT 250s, and I also have a DT 360. I love that. That's the beginning of the Enduro. That started dirt bike racing. It started everything that time. So that's my collection of bikes, just because of styling. And then I bought something I never thought I would buy. I bought a Harley Davidson. I bought but it's the Pan America, and I love this bike. Man.
If that's brand new to you, you just bought that.
Just bought it. I love the Triumph Tiger 1200. That's what I thought I was going to get. I saw this bike. This 150 horsepower, 500-pound bike is so fun. It's. I thought I was going to go with the BMW until I rode this thing, and I was like, I am set. Also, I'm 6'2". I finally got a bike I can fit on. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I am impressed. I do love this bike, the speed, everything about this. And I'm riding it to Sturgis. I cannot wait to ride this bike. So that's my new bike. Yeah. And then the rest of them are my son's bikes because he's got the same addiction I do. So my fault.
Yeah. Yeah, we're actually going to get to ride a Pan America at the Touratech rally. We got 2 riders for us out there in the Pacific Northwest that Harley's going to give us a couple of those. So we'll be riding a couple of those for off and on road. So I'm excited that you're getting to do that on a Pan Am. Great motorcycle, man. We look forward to getting to sample one ourselves here soon.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you getting on here and spending some time with us, Bryan. How can folks find information about the movie, the Motivational Foundation, the Sturgis Rap Party. Give us some of that real quick, and we'll put it on the screen too.
Yeah, for the party, if you guys are going to Sturgis, you got to come to this party. Come find me there. That's the whole point of the party, Pooh. It's really that we all meet each other, and that's real simple. And you'll put on screen, it says SturgisRallyRapParty.com.
SturgisRallyRapParty.com.
Yep. And then as far as more information about motivational, just go to motovational.org. And it'll show down at the bottom.
Not with an R. It's motovational.org. Go make sure.
.org, and along the bottom is all our upcoming. If you're in California, please come on our Why We Ride to the Quell. It's one of the funnest events. I mean, we have, like I say, we have people coming as far as from India to fly in just for this event.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then, of course, Why We Ride. Just go to whywride.com. It'll show you all the links. It's on iTunes. It's on Amazon Prime. There's still DVDs out there on Amazon Prime. We didn't make Blu-rays because we didn't know it would sell that good. So, but nobody has a Blu-ray player anyway. But yeah, of course. And then always you can always reach out to me. It has to do anything with Why We Ride, motivational, or helping people on two wheels, or people on two wheels helping people. I always make myself available. So, and you have all my information on there as well.
Well, I hope we get a chance to ride together ourselves sometime. Either me come out to California, or when you come out here to God's country in the Southeast United States, man, we'll get together and you share a meal and take a ride together at some point. So appreciate it.
Come out to Why Ride for the Quell next May. You'll be a guest of mine. I'd love to have you on it.
I would be thrilled and honored. Absolutely. So, well, this is Rob and Bryan with Road Dirt. Ride life.
Cheers.
Cheers.